What's good, y'all? Jada Black checking in. Salute to everybody tapping in. I want to talk about Anthony Edwards and the fact that now both of his baby mamas are teaming up against him. Y'all know I've already covered Anthony Edwards and Aisha Howard, the nearly 40-year-old baby mama who just won't go away. She feels entitled to his money even though she's pushing 40 and he's only around 23 or 24. And now things have escalated. She's become obsessed and even secured a written statement, reportedly, from his other baby mama, Alexandria, also known as Allie D. She's the one on the left. That's Allie on the left right there. I've talked about her before as well. We haven't heard much from her lately, but from what it looks like, she's been quietly seething as the mother of his son, and she ended up providing information to Aisha, who's been trying and failing to move this case to California since he doesn't even live there. He's not from California, but it's claimed he was still sending wire transfers from California to Allie. And Allie passed that info along to Aisha, the nearly 40-year-old baby mama of a rapper, right? And mind you, she never calls that rapper out publicly, right? She doesn't expose that rapper at all. But this nearly 40-year-old woman is focused on trying to embarrass and humiliate Anthony Edwards because he refuses to give her money and refuses to have her involved in his life. Both of these women are bitter, and in my opinion, they're both older than him. And listen, this is exactly what some of you women are heading toward. You go out, get the BBLs and surgeries, thinking you're going to land a relationship with an NBA player, athlete, or rapper. And when it doesn't work out, all you're left with is a child. Then emotions kick in and you start feeling some type of way. You made a choice to get with a guy in his 20s who's already in a relationship with someone else. And he's not leaving his situation for either one of you. So yeah, both of them are clearly seething, and that's exactly why they've ended up teaming up. And then people wonder why you're seen as undateable, and why some men would rather travel overseas to date than deal with this. Just look at the kind of drama these guys end up dealing with. Why even deal with a 20-something-year-old if you already know there's no relationship coming from either side? All right? Now you've got Aisha, who's clearly obsessed, and even Anthony Edwards' lawyers have said they've never dealt with someone like her, because while it's partly about money, it's also about him wanting nothing to do with her or the child, unfortunately. And the more she realizes that, the more anger builds up toward him. Gentlemen, this is why you have to move carefully. These women are sharks. They're out here chasing young athletes trying to secure a payday. And unfortunately, he fell into what I call the BBL trap, because both of these women are using appearances to pull athletes in. They're fooling these athletes into thinking everything is fine when it really isn't. Their goal is to get a baby out of you. They create a false sense of security like they don't want anything from you. But once pregnancy happens, they switch up and become exactly what Aisha is showing, extremely obsessive. And this situation, it's pure obsession, like seriously obsessive. Now, let's actually get into the article. Anthony Edwards' baby mamas are teaming up against him in court. One of his baby mamas is now actively helping the other in their legal fight. According to TMZ, court documents reveal that Aisha Howard, who shares a daughter named Aubrey, born in 2004, has submitted new evidence in her ongoing legal battle with the Minnesota Timberwolves star. Aisha reportedly obtained a declaration from Anthony's other baby mama, Alexandria, who also has a son named Amir with him, and she's now using that in court. Aisha and Anthony have been battling it out in court for over a year now. Aisha wants a Los Angeles judge to set child support, while Anthony is pushing for the case to be handled in Georgia. He doesn't live in LA, but she knows how the system works. She's watched other women get more favorable rulings in California courts, and she's clearly trying to follow that same path. At the end of the day, this is about money for these women. And that's why these guys need to be careful. Listen to the OGs if you have any in your life. They're not lying when they tell you some women are really after your money. Okay? You've got to protect yourself in situations like this. And in this case, these women are older and more experienced than him. Let's be real. They lure men in with a false sense of security, and then once pregnancy happens, the real intentions start to show. And Anthony is also requesting again that Georgia be the jurisdiction for the case. In her declaration, Alexandria stated that Anthony had been paying her voluntary monthly child support as the other baby mama. She claimed the payments were sent via wire transfer from a bank account linked to Anthony at a Beverly Hills branch. But honestly, that alone doesn't really prove anything. His agent could easily be the one handling those transfers. We don't actually know for sure. He could simply have an agent based in California doing all of this. Do people really think he personally went to California just to set that up? That's a stretch.
Aisha sees this as proof that he still has ties to California despite saying otherwise. But honestly, he probably doesn't. We've barely ever seen him in California except when he's there for games. This is absolutely insane. This situation is wild. She's even old enough to be considered his aunt. In response, Anthony has asked the court to seal the case and limit Aisha's ability to keep filing endless motions. He claims she keeps submitting meritless and harassing filings. He also says she's been using the case to publicly attack him with inflammatory claims. And from what it looks like, she absolutely has. And I think she saw other women do it and assumed she could win the same way. That's why I keep telling you, be careful out here. Some of these women are out here moving like sharks, targeting whatever you've earned. He was barely in his 20s when he entered the NBA. That's when he started dealing with Allie, the one on the left, who ended up getting pregnant. Then later came Aisha. Again, women can sometimes lure men into a false sense of security. Now, look, he still has to be accountable. I'm not excusing Anthony Edwards here, but you've got grown women who clearly knew better and still saw him as a paycheck. And hopefully this makes him avoid repeating the same mistake. I think the situation may have actually scared him straight. He was heading down a path of multiple baby mamas if nothing changed. Maybe now he's reached that point where he's saying enough is enough. Like he's just tired of dealing with all of this. And if there's one positive takeaway, it's him realizing he doesn't need to be getting these women pregnant every time he links with them. And his lawyer even added that in over a decade of practice, he's never seen someone so repeatedly and flagrantly abuse the legal system.
His lawyer didn't hold back either, calling it a full-blown campaign of harassment, obstruction, and extortion that's basically turned the court system in 2 different states into a joke. And listen to this. This is the kind of language you don't hear unless things are really messy. Now they're talking about a Western woman here, and you already know how that energy plays out when things hit the legal system. The California judge already said the court doesn't even have jurisdiction over Anthony, but Aisha still keeps pushing like that decision doesn't matter. Meanwhile, a Georgia judge already ruled the case belongs there and even ordered Aisha to cover Anthony's legal fees, and that alone clearly has her heated. And then the narrative shifts even deeper. People are saying she had to go get money from Lil Baby to keep this fight going, and that's supposedly her other baby father, by the way. Now ask yourself, is he even consistently paying child support? Because she's never publicly put him on blast the way she does Anthony, which says a lot in itself. But at the end of the day, Anthony Edwards wants no connection to either of these situations, and that rejection is what seems to be fueling all of this tension. They're both clearly upset because he's not entertaining either one of them, and in their minds, the BBL and lifestyle image was supposed to guarantee a different outcome. But that's not how he's moving. He made his choice, they made theirs, and now it's spilling over into court battles and public drama. And honestly, it's frustrating watching how accountability gets debated, because some people feel like the man always gets 100% of the blame when single motherhood comes up. But in reality, these situations involve decisions on both sides, and nobody gets a pass. These women chose to engage with a young NBA player who already had a public relationship, and it still turned into something deeper. And now the fallout is exactly what you'd expect when emotions, money, and court systems all collide. We've seen this pattern before too. Guys like Paul Pierce getting caught in similar situations with women who understand how the industry works and how to navigate it. That's why these cases keep repeating in different forms. Once pregnancy enters the picture, everything shifts into legal mode, and suddenly it becomes about jurisdiction, child support, and strategy. And in this case, even though Anthony has reportedly been paying voluntary support for one of the children, that still hasn't stopped the legal pressure from building. From his side, that's him taking responsibility. But from Aisha's side, she seems to feel it still isn't enough, and that's where the conflict keeps escalating. Meanwhile, she presents herself as independent and self-made, but critics point out that her lifestyle seems heavily tied to her relationships with high-profile men. And that contradiction is what keeps getting called out, because online you'll hear, "I don't need a man," but in court it's child support filings and legal motions. That gap between message and reality is exactly what people keep arguing about. And then the conversation even shifts into social media culture, where some women aren't even on OnlyFans, but still have cash apps in their bios expecting random support. It raises questions about validation, attention, and expectations in modern dating culture. At the end of the day, this whole situation keeps circling back to the same themes: relationships, money, accountability, and perception. And that's why it keeps blowing up the way it does.